Hello today and welcome back to Shenzhen, where we are driving a whole pile of BYD product. And the first one's going to be a little bit interesting because I'm a very big man trying to squeeze myself into a very small car. So how small are we talking? Well, this thing is just over 3.7 meters long and 1.7 meters wide. That makes it a little bit under 20 centimeters shorter and narrower than a modern Mini. So this thing is really compact, but inside, not too bad, as we'll see soon. Now, up the front here we have what some people have actually described as a little bit of an angry face, but I quite like it. There's no front under here. There's just, the various hardware for the front mounted motor. This is front wheel driven. And even though this is a relatively basic car, and we'll get to the cost a little bit later on, it's still got lots of fruit. And you'll see even here, we have a camera in the front, parking sensors, all those kind of things. So even though this is tiny, you get all the tech. If we walk around the car, more cameras here on the wing mirrors and down there. That's for the God's Eye system they have here in China. And then we have these cute little tiny 175 wide 16-inch wheels. They actually look quite big on this car, and I think that's just a trick of the eye based on how small this car really is. Now, of course, here we have the flap for the charging. This car is GBT. It would be CCS in our end of the world. Now you have two types of charging on this. You've got AC at 6.6 and then the DC. Now the DC is 30 or 40 kilowatts, depending on whether you choose the 30 kilowatt hour or the 38.8 kilowatt hour LFP batteries. And they give a range of just over 300 and 400 kilometers respectively, but that's on the very, very optimistic CLTC scale. Those speeds are pretty small, but I guess you've got to remember that's the equivalent of a, say like an Atto 3 with a 50 kilowatt hour battery, having 50 kilowatt charging. So it's not too bad, and let's be blunt, it's not really a car designed for covering big distances. This is a city vehicle, so you'll mostly be charging at home. If we come along the side, bit of piano black on the outside, proper door handles. You know how much I hate a pull-out door handle. And down here, a little bit of texturing, actually slightly familiar to what we've seen on the Atto 3. Now, round to the back, a little rear window, big spoiler here, and then the hatch. Now, if we pop the button there, it's not the biggest boot, but it's not terrible. There's enough there for, a modest family shop. Well, it's really a family car. And you can fold down the rear seat. It's just in one single piece, and you've got to actually pull both sides. But that folds down pretty easily, and then you could put, somewhat larger items in here, but still, remember, it's a really small car. Let's go have a look inside. Right, now we all know I am the largest motoring rider around. Can I get in? Firstly, it was probably a little bit harder than it looked because I'm really used to getting into a car with the steering on the other side. But you know what? It's actually pretty spacious in here, surprisingly so. And we'll be doing some driving around the track today. We'll do some of that shortly. And I found that I actually had to bring my seat back from the rear to drive comfortably. So surprising, it feels moderately spacious in here. You do feel like this side of the car is a little close. But otherwise, it's quite familiar to what we've seen with BYDs before. The steering wheel, quite familiar to the Dolphin. You have controls on here, including for the God's Eye system, as we mentioned. You've got a pedal over here on the steering wheel, but that's actually for the self-driving option that you do have in the car, so pretty cool. Now the transmission shifter's up here. You've got a little screen there for the driver. Interestingly, if we're talking about efficiency, we can't really do any testing today, but this thing's been running around a track and it's got 12.6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. That is mega considering the kind of work it's been doing. Now we have a screen up here with all the usual functions we're used to from BYD, very similar to the modern software we're seeing on the Shark. Down here, buttons, we have the start button, the drive mode button, volume for the steering wheel, some basic demist controls and those kind of things. Wireless charger down here, more power points down there as well. And then cup holders here. There's no center console, center armrest storage as such, but we do have a little tray down here as well. And then a glove box, and that's actually quite a big glove box. So really nice here in the front of the Seagull. The big question is, can I fit in the back? Right, So should we do this? Should we do the full Richard test? I think so. Now this seat is back in a comfortable position for me to drive, so it is a fair test. And would you look at that? I'm in, and not uncomfortable. There is actually a surprising amount of space back here. Now it's only a 4-seater. There's no center seat belt, and you would be rubbing shoulders very much with your passenger, but to be honest, I actually think this is more comfortable than some larger vehicles I've driven in. I could go here for, I wouldn't say a long time, but a reasonable distance. Even headroom, I'm not brushing the roof. I'm feeling some air coming up from the floor. There's more storage down here, though there's no USB ports in the back. But you know what? For a basic city tiny car, this is so impressively packaged, and I'm really impressed. The quality feels great. It's really surprising. Let's go and take it for a drive. Right, so now is our chance to drive the Seagull. This is such a cool little car. You know, relatively compact, 38.8 kilowatt hour battery, up to 400k range, but more it's a 250 to something-ish car, depending on what you're doing, whether you're going around town or doing something a little bit more on the open road. But yeah, it's super cool. Interesting that we have the God's Eye system on this, so it's picking up all these people over here, all the cones around the place. You've got the paddle there for starting God's Eye. Unfortunately, we can't actually use it. Got a 12-inch screen here. You can rotate that like with other BYDs. It's just comfortable and feels really nicely made for a car that, at the moment in China, this car is discounted. It's barely 10,000 New Zealand dollars. That is unreal. But anyway, let's go for a bit of a wander around in the Seagull. We'll take it easy on this run, just see what it's like. This track is fairly smooth, so we can't really tell too much about the ride, but it feels pretty comfortable. The steering, nice and quick. Not a human feel, but you know, it is a small city car and it actually feels a lot more tractable than most. We've got this bumpy road here. Okay, quite firm with the suspension. If we keep pushing around, steering's nice and quick. You've got the usual sports and eco drive modes, that kind of thing. We're in sport, I think, normal at the moment. Corners pretty well. It's got quite a bit of power there. They say this thing is 0 to 100 in 15 seconds, which is, I actually think it feels faster than that. Can I put my foot down now? It kind of shuffles along okay. It gets up pretty quickly to 75, then it just seems to take a while. The brakes, pretty solid. Okay, now we're going out on our slightly more zesty lap in the Seagull, making sure that it is in, where are we? Sport mode. Ready? And off we go. Now this thing is pretty cool. A little bit of lift off oversteer in it, so you get the back end coming around. It tends to be pretty good at staying all fours on the wheels on the ground. For a car that supposedly is a slow little city hatch that only does 15 seconds to 100, this is just so much fun. Grin factor central, try not to roll it. Bit of power on coming out of here. Ha! I never thought riding a Seagull would be so much fun. Squealing, right, down the back straight, and on the brakes. Right, so the BYD Seagull. Do I love it? Absolutely. This car is so cool and interestingly so much more mature than I was expecting. I had understood from talking to people that this would be a cheap feeling, you know, budget car that really wasn't meant for export, and it's absolutely the opposite. It feels so well developed and really impressive. Now, will it come to New Zealand? Well, BYD are basically asking for our feedback, both the journalists and also you. So comment down in the comment section if you want to see this car come to New Zealand. Get your friends to comment as well. They've got some decisions to make. They can take various models and forms, ranging potentially in price from the low 20s up to the high 30s. And really, they're just wanting to get an idea if people maybe want a higher specified, small city car with reasonable range, or maybe people just want the cheapest car they can with minimal features and only a modest range. So let us know down below, get your friends to do the same, and we'll pass those on to BYD. So thank you for watching. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and come back more for great EV content.